Hi, I'm Natalie. When Linda volunteered to plan Mike's 40th birthday party, I didn't think twice about agreeing. I was drowning in double shifts at the ER and figured, why not let her take the reins? What I didn't know was that she had an ulterior motive, one that would leave me questioning everything. Linda always had a way of romanticizing the past, especially the years before I came into Mike's life. Jane used to make the most divine Sunday roasts. She'd reminisce at family dinners. Or, remember how Jane used to organize those family beach trips? Jane, Mike's ex-wife, was the high school sweetheart Linda had adored for decades. I always tried to be gracious. After all, it's not easy watching your son rebuild his life after a divorce. But looking back, I should have known Linda's nostalgia wasn't harmless. The red flags began to pile up the moment she insisted on handling every detail of the party. "Don't stress yourself, dear," she cooed, her smile tight. "I know all of Mike's friends, and you're so busy saving lives at the hospital." I didn't have the energy to argue, so I let her run with it. I should have paid more attention to the hushed phone calls that ended the second I walked into the room, or the pitying looks from my sister-in-law, Amy, during family dinners. But I brushed it all off. I was too busy ensuring my patients survived the night to notice the storm brewing in my own home. The day of the party arrived, and Linda insisted I work my regular shift. "It'll be a bigger surprise if you arrive with the crowd," she chirped. Trust me, those words would soon haunt me. I arrived at the restaurant in my scrubs, physically drained but excited to celebrate Mike. The private room was buzzing with familiar faces, friends, family, colleagues. At the center stood Mike, his smile wide. But as I moved closer, I felt the energy shift. A small cluster of people was huddled around someone, their attention focused entirely on her. Then the group parted, and there she was, Jane, stunning in a designer dress that hugged her like a second skin, her arm poked through Linda's as they shared a private laugh. My stomach dropped. "Surprise." Linda's voice rang out, commanding the room. "Look who's here to celebrate Mike's big day." Her grin was as radiant as it was calculated. "We've reunited the real family." The silence that followed was deafening. Mike froze, his expression a mix of shock and something that felt dangerously close to guilt. Jane stepped forward with all the grace of a practiced performer. "Happy birthday, Mickey," she purred, using the nickname he hadn't heard in a decade. "I got you something special." She handed him an envelope. "Remember that beach house in Cape Cod we used to dream about? Well, I bought it. Linda mentioned you've been missing the ocean." My chest tightened as the room spun. Linda and Jane had been scheming behind my back, and Mike's face, pale and unreadable, did nothing to steady me. Linda clasped her hands together like a proud matchmaker. "Isn't this wonderful?" she gushed. "It's just like old times." She turned to the room with a nostalgic sigh. "You all remember Jane. She and Mickey were the perfect couple. It was such a shame about their rough patch." A rough patch. That's what she called Jane's affair with Mike's best friend. The affair that shattered their marriage and left him a broken man. The man I helped piece back together when we met. Mike finally found his voice. "Mom, what are you doing?" "Oh, honey," Linda chirped, completely unfazed. "I'm fixing things. James moved back to town, and when she called me last month, I knew it was fate." Last month, while I was pulling double shifts to save for Mike's dream vacation to Europe, Linda and Jane were plotting this ambush. Linda wasn't done. "Oh, when I had the chef make Jane's famous chocolate raspberry cake. Remember how you used to say no one could bake like her?" The final blow, my hands trembled and tears blurred my vision. Without a word, I turned and walked out. Behind me, I heard Mike call my name, but Linda's voice drowned him out. "Oh dear, I hope she's not about to make a scene." Jane would never. I made it to my car before the sobs broke free. 10 years of trying to be the perfect wife, enduring Linda's passive-aggressive remarks, and supporting a man still scared by his past. It all came crashing down. My phone buzzed. A text from Amy. "I'm so sorry. I wanted to warn you, but Mom threatened to cut off my kids' college fund if I did." Another text followed. "You should know what else they're planning. Mom gave Jane your anniversary dinner reservation for next month." Next month. Our 10th anniversary. The reservation I booked 6 months in advance at Mike's favorite restaurant. Of course, Linda knew about it. She'd insisted on helping with the plans. I looked up and saw guests trickling out of the restaurant. Then came Linda and Jane, arm in arm, their heads close in conspiratorial conversation. Mike followed, his face dark with anger. Our eyes met through the windshield, and I saw the same lost expression he'd worn when I first met him in the hospital. But I wasn't that Natalie anymore. The Natalie who forgave, who tried to understand. That Natalie was gone. I started the car and pulled away, Linda's words echoing in my mind. Reunite the real family. Well, they were about to find out what happens when you push the fake family too far. I had receipts for every lie, every manipulation, every insult Linda had ever thrown my way. And now, thanks to Amy, I had their future plans too. They wanted a spectacle. I'd give them one they'd never forget. But first, I had a call to make. To the restaurant where Jane thought she'd be celebrating my anniversary. The confrontation at Mike's birthday party was only the beginning. Over the next week, I channeled my pain into action. Every snide comment Linda had made, every accidental run-in with Jane, every manipulative scheme. I'd kept receipts. And now, with Amy's guilty conscience working in my favor, I had access to even more. Once Natalie's out of the picture, one text from Linda read, "Everything can go back to normal. Jane's already house hunting in our neighborhood." House hunting. In my neighborhood. I took a week off work, claiming exhaustion. Mike's voicemails piled up, his tone shifting from regretful to frantic. "Please come home," he pleaded. "I didn't know about Jane. Mom's gone too far." Gone too far. Linda had crossed that line years ago. Like when she sent our wedding photos to Jane by mistake, then proudly displayed Jane's wedding pictures during a family dinner. Or when she gave Jane my late grandmother's cookie recipe and praised Jane's version as finally getting it right. But this time, Linda had underestimated me. By day 8, I was ready. Wednesday afternoon, I arrived at Linda's house during her weekly bridge game, the pinnacle of her social calendar. The sound of laughter and clinking teacups floated out as I opened the door. "Natalie," Linda exclaimed, her surprise quickly morphing into a brittle smile. "We've all been so worried. Mickey's been beside himself." "I bet he has," I replied coolly. Then I turned to the women seated around the table. "Ladies, I hope you don't mind an interruption. I have a story to share." "Natalie," Linda started, but I held up my phone. "Did you know Linda's been plotting to reunite Mike with his ex-wife? I have the messages to prove it." I began reading aloud. Text after text, each one more damning than the last. Her friends' polite smiles faded as I detailed Linda's elaborate scheme. The secret meetings, the coordinated events, the deliberate sabotage. "And here's my favorite," I said, holding up my phone. Linda sharing the name of the fertility clinic I used so Jane could time her miracle pregnancy announcement to overshadow mine. The room erupted. Linda's closest friend, Margaret, stood abruptly, her face flushed with anger. "Linda, this is monstrous. We've been friends for 30 years, but this is unforgivable." "It's not what you think," Linda protested, her voice shaky. "I was just trying to help Mickey. Natalie's not right for him. She works too much. She's not part of our circle." "She's a nurse who saves lives," Margaret snapped. While Jane, if I recall, was sleeping with the country club tennis coach before she left town. The room fell silent as the weight of Margaret's words settled. At that moment, Mike walked in, his eyes scanning the room. He froze, taking in the scene. Linda, red-faced and defensive, her bridge club in disarray, and me, standing calm and resolute. "Mom," he said quietly, "we need to talk. About all of it." Linda turned to him, tears brimming. "I was just trying to help. Jane's sorry, she's changed. I was miserable with her." Mike cut her off. "And I've spent 10 years telling you that. But you never listened because Jane fit your idea of perfect." "But the beach house," Linda trailed off weakly. "Means nothing to me," Mike said firmly, "because the only person I want to share my life with is my wife, the one you spent a decade trying to drive away." Tears pricked my eyes, but I stood tall. "There's one more thing," I said, turning back to the bridge club. "Linda, would you like to explain why Jane's name is on my anniversary dinner reservation? Or should I?" The room went deathly quiet. Linda's friends avoided her gaze as she sputtered, grasping for excuses. "I think," Margaret said, standing with her purse in hand, "we should leave. Linda, don't expect us back until you figure out your priorities." One by one, her friends filed out, their polite farewells heavy with disappointment. Linda collapsed into a chair, her carefully curated facade in ruins. But I wasn't done. Since you love surprises so much, I said, pulling out an envelope, here's one for you. I've accepted a position as head trauma nurse at Boston General. Mike and I are moving next month. Linda's head snapped up. You can't. This is Mickey's home. Actually, Mike interjected, moving to stand beside me. I've already accepted a transfer to Boston. We made the decision last week. The devastation on Linda's face was almost enough to make me feel sorry for her. Almost. As we left, Jane's car pulled into the driveway. She stepped out, all polished perfection, ready to console her would-be mother-in-law. The timing couldn't have been better. Mike squeezed my hand as we walked to the car. I'm sorry, he murmured. I should have stood up to her a long time ago. I squeezed back. We both should have. But we're done with that now. Behind us, Linda's wails echoed through the crisp afternoon air, Jane rushing to comfort her. But for the first time in 10 years, I didn't care. We had a new life waiting in Boston, far from Linda's schemes and Jane's manipulations. And as Mike and I drove away, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. 3 months after we moved to Boston, Jane announced her pregnancy. Linda called Mike in hysterics, insisting this was his second chance at a real family. She spoke of destiny and redemption, oblivious to the cracks already forming in Jane's carefully crafted facade. Through some hospital connections, I uncovered the truth. Jane had been receiving fertility treatments at multiple clinics, lying about her medical history to maintain her miracle baby narrative. The tangled web unraveled further when her maxed-out credit cards and spiraling debt came to light. With her finances in shambles and her lies exposed, Jane's polished image crumbled. Linda's final play came at Christmas. She showed up unannounced at our Boston home, clutching a tissue and a story. I'm dying, she declared, her voice thick with tears. My only wish is to see my son happy with his true love. Her definition of true love, of course, was still Jane. Mike, who had been patient far longer than anyone should be, had finally reached his breaking point. Mom, he said firmly, guiding her toward the door. I am with my true love. You just never cared enough to notice. And with that, he closed the door on her manipulation for good. Today we're expecting our first child. Linda wasn't invited to the baby shower. Instead, Margaret, her former bridge club ally, flew in to celebrate with us. She arrived with an unexpected gift, Linda's treasured family recipe book. She doesn't deserve these traditions, Margaret said with a warm smile. You do. Occasionally, I catch glimpses of Linda on social media, leaving wistful comments under Jane's posts. She's still clinging to her delusion, a fantasy that has long since unraveled. But here in Boston, far from the chaos they tried to drag us into, Mike and I have built something real, something that no amount of manipulation could ever touch. And Jane's beach house, it was foreclosed on last month. Turns out, perfect facades don't pay the mortgage. They say karma finds everyone eventually. Sometimes, though, it just needs a little push in the right direction.